Mortgage rates have increased to a peak we haven't seen since 2009, but prices are still appreciating. Let's talk about that and more in this week's segment of Market Watch. Hi there, it's Joshua Barks here, Associate Broker with Keller Williams Realty Boise and Team Lead of the Barks & Co. Real Estate Team. Thank you for tuning in to this week's segment of Market Watch. We're going to talk about a deep dive into the market dynamics for April of 2022. I'm super excited to get into the nitty-gritty details, but before I do, this video is going to be far too long for a lot of you, so I am including a timeline or timestamps in the slider bar below, and then I'm also going to cover a couple of bullet points real quick so you can kind of get the gist of it. First off, interest rates. They have hit their highest rate since what we've seen since 2009, according to a report by Freddie Mac. 5.27% is the average nationally for a 30-year fixed rate mortgage right now. Incredible. They are not showing signs of decreasing anytime soon. In fact, we're likely going to continue to see increases through the end of the year, and I wouldn't be surprised if interest rates are 6% or more by the end of the year. Then bullet point number 2, we have the average sales price in Ada County and Canyon County have both continued to appreciate. Ada County at 3.5% so far this year, landing the average sales price just shy of $595,000. In Canyon County, we have appreciated by about 5% so far this year, and the average sales price in Canyon County is $425,000. Now, bullet point number 3 is talking about bullet point number 2. Prices have appreciated, yet at a much slower pace than what we saw last year. This is what we expected, and last year we had almost double what we have currently, percentage-wise, in appreciation so far year to date. So I anticipate our predictions that we had earlier this year to be on track for what we were anticipating for the average sales price by the end of the year for both Ada and Canyon County. Then, the last bullet point is going to be inventory continues to rise, finally. We still have significantly low supply just in general, but it's way more than what we've been experiencing, which is fantastic. And as we head into the summer months, which are our highest inventory months usually, we're hoping to see even more inventory come to market. Here is just diving into the market dynamics. Let's get that on, and I'll see you for the wrap up at the end. April 2022 market dynamics. This is going to be both for Ada and Canyon County existing home sales. So first off, starting with Ada County. As always, I like to start with the market trends chart because I think that gives us the best idea on kind of really what's going on in the marketplace. So let's compare what's going on now to what was going on at this time last year. So first off, the red lines on these charts are the number of available listings in that given month. And then we have the gray bars being the number of pending sales and the black bars being the number of closed sales. So as of right now, we have 468 available homes in Ada County for existing homes, which is up significantly from last month, which is wonderful, and almost twice as much as what we had this time last year. So 235 last year, 468 now. When we go back to 2020, of course, we still had way more than that with 720 active listings in at the end of April 2020. So we're still very severely undersupplied for this time of year and just for normal markets in general. And when we're looking at the number of pending sales, we have 691, which is down from what we saw this time last year, and down, but very similar to what we saw in April of 2020. So demand is continuing to cool and level off a little bit, which is fantastic news for buyers. This is both for Ada and Canyon County, actually. But it's not cooling off enough to where we are going to see a buyer's market, not anytime soon at least, just getting back to maybe quote-unquote normal, heading toward balanced territory. So we're going to see days on market continue to rise a bit as inventory comes up, and things are just going to be a little bit easier for buyers out there, I think, because there's going to be less competition, and in addition to that, prices aren't going to be appreciating as rapidly, and homes aren't going to sell in one day. When we're looking at closed sales, we do have fewer closed in April compared to what we saw last year, but as we know, significantly more than what we saw in April of 2020, which makes sense because March was, when everything shut down in 2020. So when we're looking at this, just kind of compared year over year, I would say that closed sales are actually remaining fairly stable with demand starting to diminish. So we're going to see sales likely continue to be increasing a bit as inventory goes up, but maybe remain flat kind of overall. We do typically see our highest inventory months in the summer, so I'm hoping that inventory continues to rise, and then demand I anticipate is going to continue to level off and kind of remain flat as well, numbers-wise. When we're talking about prices, though, prices will continue to appreciate, but not at this 35% we saw last year. Thank goodness. We are up 3.5% just about so far year to date, bringing us just shy of 600,000, 390 or 595,000 is the average sold price for homes in Ada County over the last 12 months. Now, if you look at this time last year in 2021, we appreciated by about 8%. So we are less than half of this number so far, which is fantastic. As if you might recall, my prediction was we were going to be between this number and this number by the end of the year for Ada County. So we are on track to be in between that. And with the way interest rates are going and things like that, we're likely going to continue to see that price appreciation mellow out. We do have 16 days on market for average before a home gets an accepted contract, which is up 1 day from last month. The available supply is still significantly undersupplied. So this is where I'm saying we're still experiencing a strong seller's market. It's just not quite as strong as what we have been experiencing over the past couple of years. So we still have less than 1 month supply all the way up to $800,000 in Ada County, which means it's taking less than a month. If no new homes came on the market and buyers continue to buy them at the pace it would take less than a month to run out completely of homes under 800,000. And then above 800,000, we're less than 2 months, up to 1.5 million. We don't get way over 2 months until we're above 2 million, which makes sense because the buyer pool for 2 million plus for our area is going to remain very small. When you're looking at inventory, the absorption rate, what the economists say is that anything less than 4 months supply is considered to be a seller's market. So seller's market all the way up to $2 million. Anything between 4 and 6 months is considered to be balanced. So a fairly balanced market for those listings over 2 million. And then beyond 6 months is considered to be that buyer's market territory. So as you can see, still very strong seller's market territory. Maybe getting close to a buyer's market territory above 2 million, which I anticipate will continue to be the case. When you're looking at the average sales price of the 595, you can see this is what sellers are getting over the last 12 months. Then when you look at the average price for all the homes that are pending in Ada County, we have an average pending price at $687,000, and then the average asking price for everything in MLS is $825,000. So I like to look at this as this is what sellers are hoping for. This is potentially close to what they're getting. We don't know the pending number. There isn't a slot for that in MLS that says we are pending at X price. So we don't know what pending price actually is until the property closes. So what sellers are hoping for, potentially what they're getting close to, and then what they're ultimately getting. If you look at the average ask to sold price ratio, we are less than 100%, which is fantastic. But this is the first time I think we've seen that in a while, 99.4%. So on average, sellers are getting 99.4% of that asking price. Now that doesn't mean that sellers are getting, 0.5% less than what they're getting on every property. In order to get an average that's near 100% and even above 100%, that still means that way more listings are getting over asking price by a significant amount than under asking price to average out to be 99%. So that's what that means there. If you look at the top 3 areas for Ada County, Southwest Meridian still in the number 1 slot, up 7.7% year to date, and $695,000 is the average sales price for Southwest Meridian. North Boise coming in at number 2 at 6.9% with an average sales price of $815,000, and then Star ranking number 3 in Ada County for growth so far this year in the price appreciation. So $627,000, up 5.7% so far this year. So that's really Ada County. Let's move on to Canyon County and talk about what's going on in April. Again, I like to start with the market trends chart because that gives us a really good idea on what's going on, and we can compare this year to last year. So this year, right now, we have 197 active listings in Canyon County compared to last year's 101. It's down from what we saw in April of 2020, which makes sense because everything closed down in March, but we are almost double, which is wonderful, almost double what we saw this time last year. Now, when you look at the number of pending sales, which are the gray bars, we have 342 pending right now compared to the 367 that were pending this time last year, and then the 351 that were pending in April. So we are still down in pendings for both Ada and Canyon County, showing that demand is slowing a bit, which is fantastic. We're starting to level out there. 292 homes closed in April compared to the 303 last year and the 301 in April. So we're actually staying pretty consistent in sales for Canyon County, the number of closed sales. I do anticipate inventory to continue to rise. Our highest inventory months during the quote-unquote normal market tend to be the summertime. So hopefully that continues to rise. We are still very severely undersupplied for Canyon County as well as Ada County. But with demand starting to cool off, we will see prices rise at a slower pace. So we have $423,000 is the new average sales price for Ada County. We are up 5.5% so far this year. That's incredible. It is less than what we saw this time last year when we got 35% for the whole year. We had seen about 8% by this time last year. So just a little bit under that, which is very close to what I was saying we would likely see prediction-wise, if you saw my predictions earlier this year, that we'd see Canyon County be likely between these two numbers. Pretty much 12 to 18% is what I'm thinking we're going to see for the average sales price at the end of the year. Canyon County has a lot more room for growth than Ada County does. As people get priced out of Ada County and move to Canyon County, that's going to continue driving Canyon County likely higher than Ada County. So that's why I think we're going to see, maybe up to 20% again for Canyon County, while Ada County is likely going to end around that 15%-ish number, maybe 10 to 15 probably on the lower end. When we're looking at the pricing breakdown, so you can see across all price points and what our absorption rates are. So months of inventory, we still have less than a month's supply, all the way up to 500,000 in Canyon County. So anything under 500,000 is still going to be very competitive for buyers out there. Not very many choices. Above 500,000 up to, it looks like 800,000, we have less than 2 months. So again, still competitive, but not quite as crazy as less than 500. And then we have 2.5 months from 800 to 1 million. And then beyond 1 million, we're starting to see more and more, which again makes sense because there's fewer buyers looking in Canyon County in those price points. What this means, so economists say, like I said, where we have anything less than 4 months supply is considered to be a seller's market. So significantly strong seller's market all the way up to $1 million in Canyon County. Anything between 4 and 6 months is considered to be balanced. So we are not balanced in any way in Canyon County, still seller side, a little bit balanced, starting to in that 1 million to 1.5, but still not by much. But we do have what's considered to be a buyer's market, according to economists, for those between 1.5 and 2 million, which makes sense. They say anything beyond 6 months is considered a buyer's market because if it takes, 12 months, this means it takes 1 year for properties to sell that are priced between $1.5 million and $2 million in Canyon County on average. So if it takes 1 year, that means there's likely going to be a lot more time for buyers to make choices. Now, we don't have very many sales. Obviously, there's only one in the last year, which is why you get that 12 months number, and one active and one pending. So there's just not very much in that category. But as a buyer, there's more time. Days on market is 16 days for Canyon County, which is the same as Ada County. When we're looking again, where are prices heading? Still up, 423,000 being that average sold price in the last 12 months. The average asking price for everything in MLS in Canyon County is 600,000, which is quite a delta, 600 between 425. The average price that is listed for everything pending in MLS right now for Canyon County is just under 475. Now, we don't know exactly what prices are pending at because that's confidential information, and we won't know until they sell. So we like to think that maybe sellers are getting close to this number. This is what they're hoping for, 600,000. This is probably what they're getting on average. And then this is ultimately what they got in the last 12 months. So that's really what we see for Canyon County. When we're looking at the top three areas, Wilder still coming in at number one with 9% so far this year. So average sales price in Wilder just over 420. Parma, we have 7.3% appreciation so far year to date, just over 351,000 out in Parma. And then in Northeast Nampa, 6.2% so far year to date, with that average sales price almost the same as all of Canyon County at 425,000. So that's really what's happening in Canyon County as well. We're seeing more inventory. Higher demand is lower than what we were seeing, so leveling out there in demand, and sales are about the same, so pretty flat in sales overall. Now, when we're looking at mortgage rates, because that is the talk of the year so far, we have, as of yesterday, the average mortgage rate for a 30-year fixed is over 5.25, so 5.27 is the average interest rate in the nation right now for a 30-year fixed. Your specific interest rate, that doesn't mean you will automatically get a 5.27. It could be less than that, it could be more than that, depends on your credit situation, and interest rates fluctuate every day. So if that's something that you're banking on, let me know and I can set you up with a lender partner. This is just a report that comes out every week, so you can kind of see what the trends are nationally. So with this 5.25% interest rate for mortgage, that's the first time we've seen this rate this high since 2009, I believe, which is incredible. So more than a decade, we haven't seen rates this high. That's pretty crazy. So when we're looking at this, interest rates aren't going to be coming down anytime soon. They're going to continue to rise. In fact, the Fed met earlier this week, and they chose to raise the federal rate, the Federal Reserve rate, by 0.5%. So they went from 0.25, 0.25%, up to 0.75, 0.75%. So the Fed rate is the rate at which banks borrow money from the Federal Reserve. So it doesn't have a direct effect to mortgage rates. That doesn't mean mortgage rates jump by 0.5%. However, it does have an indirect effect where banks will pass on the more expensive interest they have to borrow money, means they're going to pass on that more expensive interest to the consumer in mortgage rates and rates on car loans and credit cards and things like that as well. So the Fed rate does affect, but not in a direct, percentage point to percentage point fashion. The Fed has indicated they're going to continue to raise rates throughout the year. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw this average interest rate 6% or more by the end of the year at the way things are going. I'm hoping that things kind of level off, maybe stay around the 5.5% mark through the summer before they start rising again. But like I said, things aren't slowing down for interest rate wise on mortgages. Now, if you're thinking about moving this summer or fall, now is a really good time to get started, especially if you're thinking about moving this summer, because the end of spring is here in a couple weeks. Memorial weekend is usually what people consider the end of spring because school's out. We can start summer vacations shortly thereafter. And that's when we start to see the spring market slow down and transition over into our summer market for our area. Typical closing time frame is about 30 days from an accepted offer. So that means if you went shopping today and found something, it's May 6th, 30 days from now, you're looking at likely June 6th at the earliest to close and move in. That's if you find something today, make an offer today, and get it accepted today. So that's where I say if you're looking to move this summer, now's really the time to get started. And if you're looking to sell, now's a good time to get started for that as well, because there's preparations involved. You want to make sure, that your home's clean, that we schedule photography and everything like that. Maybe you have a couple of repairs and minor things that you want to do to make sure your home stands out. I help with that with all of my sellers, coordinating any contractors, obtaining any bids that are needed. That's just one of the services that I offer. And that does take a little bit of time. Contractors are very busy right now, as they have been over the past couple of years. So even if we met this coming week and looked at doing some, and we had repairs to do, I'm not saying everybody does, but most people have a few things here and there, we're likely looking at not putting your home on the market until June. It doesn't mean that we can't put your home on the market this coming week. We can definitely squeeze things through. It just means we're doing less as far as preparations go. Or you, the homeowner, are doing more yourself, because contractors are too busy to squeeze them in that week unless it's a very small thing there. So that's kind of what I have to say about just moving time frame and things like that. If you have any questions about what I've covered, please let me know. Here we'll get into a wrap-up section, so I will talk about that soon. Okay, so there you have it. That's what's going on in Ada and Canyon County, as well as interest rates. The wrap-up kind of gist overall is hopefully we continue to see inventory rise. Summertime is usually our highest inventory month, so I am expecting inventory to continue in an upward fashion. Now with demand and the number of closed sales, so pending sales, closed sales, I'm anticipating those to remain fairly flat year over year, potentially even down from what we saw this time last year as prices continue to appreciate and interest rates rise. Now, I did say prices are going to continue to appreciate. They're not coming down, at least not significantly anytime soon. We still need way more homes on the market and way less people buying them in order for prices to come down. Now, I'm not saying that we aren't going to see it's not going to feel like they're coming down because they're not appreciating 10% a month. But thankfully, they're not going to be appreciating 10% a month. We're maybe going to see that for the year in Ada County. That's what I'm hoping happens. So finally, we're going to see days on market start to rise. We have average days on markets like 16. And what we saw this time going into the pandemic was we had average days on market of like 26 or so. So we still have a ways to go for days on market to come up. But the good news about that is it's going to be much easier for buyers because there's going to be fewer people out there that you're competing against. You're likely still going to be competing, just not against a million different people, just maybe one or two, which is good. And then the other thing that's awesome is homes are going to stick around a little bit longer. Like I said, average days on market is 16 days right now. So you're not going to have to worry about the home disappearing in that one day that it comes on the market, coming to market and leaving the market in one day, because that's irritating for everybody. So I'm excited to see what the summer market brings as we wind down. The end of May, Memorial Weekend, is typically when our spring market starts transitioning into our summer market. People start going on vacations, so they can list their house and leave for a time period and what have you. So that'll be really good because we need that inventory out there. And interest rates, I wouldn't be surprised if those are 6% or more by the end of the year. So if you're a buyer, buy as soon as possible, pretty much, is kind of the moral of the story. Depends on your specific situation, but that's kind of the gist of it. And if you're a seller right now, you can capitalize while it's still really high demand right now, because like I said, demand is going to continue to diminish, likely not drop drastically, but continue to diminish. So it'll be even more important to price your home correctly, make sure that it's in top-notch top-notch condition so that you look better than all of your competition out there, because it's a beauty pageant. You want to make sure that your home is the prettiest one of them all, so everyone's fighting for your home specifically, and make sure, even with the prettiest, like I said, that it's priced right. That's going to be super crucial as we move forward into this more normal market. You know, you can't get away with pricing homes way above market value anymore and have people just jump at it because there's nothing else available. Even when we were experiencing the craziest market we've ever seen, overpriced homes by and large sat on the market for a while and still ended up reducing their price. So price is going to be even more crucial going forward, especially with rising interest rates. Now, if you're a seller and a buyer, you can capitalize on selling while the market is great and then lock in on that lower interest rate on the buyer side before waiting too long in the year. Again, it depends on your specific individual situation, and I don't ever want to pressure anyone into making any decisions that aren't good for them and their family, or just pressure them to make decisions at all. But that's kind of what we have in the market. That's the hard truth, is that prices are going to continue to rise, interest rates are going to continue to rise. So if you're a buyer, sooner is probably better than later. And if you're a seller, still probably sooner than later if you're going to turn around and buy. So that's what I have for you right now. Next week is going to be our short update, shorter than what we have here. And then I hope everyone has a wonderful Mother's Day weekend, because it's Mother's Day this weekend. So happy Mother's Day, and I hope everyone had a great Cinco de Mayo yesterday. We will see you next week for Market Watch.